we start?
Start. Start.
Good evening.
One.
Welcome you all to the 19th webinar series hosting by Civil Department Association, Force of College of Engineering Pathanapuram. Kindly raise your doubts regarding topic in the YouTube comment section and we will be sharing it with Sir and he will clarify it at the end of the section. I am glad to introduce the lecturer of this webinar, Mr. Jayesh JL, an NIT alumnus batch of 1998, is a mechanical mining engineer with more than 8 years of corporate industry experience with MNCs. He is currently the chief mentor for Jayesh Academy. Under his tutelage, innumerable students have cleared IIMs and top B school exams, civil services, law entrances, GMAT, GRE, etc. in the last 15 years. Today, he will enlighten you on career skills and corporate expectations. Now, let me welcome Sir to the webinar. Welcome, Sir.
Thank you. Shall I take over? Hi everyone.
Yes, sir.
In this brief session of today, I'll be teaching you something very important for your corporate career life, which includes both soft skills, hard skills, and whatever required from the perspective of an employer as well as an employee. So it is mutual. So both corporate expectations and the candidate requirements. What do the candidates expect from the corporate, and mutually what does the corporate expect from the candidate for a successful career and prosperity for the organization. Alright, so let me start with a quote. Hope all of you have heard this quote at least at some point of your life. Everybody is a genius, but if you judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree, it live its whole life thinking it is stupid. This is a very famous quote by Einstein. And I don't think I need to explain the meaning of this quote. The point is, every single one of you attending today's seminar is a potential genius. Means all of you have your unique skills, your unique competencies, and your way of doing things, which in itself might be the best, provided you don't compare with others because you are one of the topmost in your area of operations. So having said that, let me move on to today's topics. I'm not going to elaborate much on any single field. All I'm going to do is, I'll give you short and sweet tips on how to improve your career, both soft skills and hard skills. So first, let's start with 3 C's of career. So remember these 3 C's. What are the 3 C's? One is your core competencies. This is the most important skill or thing you need in your corporate life. So what do you mean by core competencies? Or what is a competency? What's the meaning of the English word competency? Competency means what you are good at. What is your most, the best skill you have, the best area of interest, the one in which you are the best, and how do you develop that, and how do you update it. So unless you have a core competency, let you be an engineer, a doctor, or any profession, what is your core competency? That decides your career. So how to develop that is your priority. For example, if you are a mechanical engineer, not necessary that the whole mechanical engineering branch itself is your core competency. Maybe you are good at hydraulics. Some of you may be good at automobiles. Those who are good in automobiles may be good in some specific area of automobiles. So those areas we call it core competency. So develop your core competency. That is the first C. Now what is the second C? The second C stands for compatibility. What do you mean by compatibility? I think we all talk about something known as a comfort zone. And this is one area where we Keralites have a lot of issues in. We rarely move out of our house or even our town or village or district to find a job. So if somebody offers us a job in our hometown or near our hometown, we are happy to accept it. But the moment we are asked to leave our state, maybe we have to go to Chennai or Bangalore or other countries, we think twice because we are reluctant to move out of our comfort zone. That's an issue with compatibility. So what's the meaning of the English word compatibility? In other words, it means your ability to adapt to any situation. So this is something which you have to develop right from your school time. I remember I moved out of my hometown, which is Trivandrum, at the age of 17 after my 12th to do my engineering, which in fact was a blessing for me because though I was reluctant to leave my hometown, I was so attached to my parents, my family, still I had to go. And then I adjusted with those new situations. I learned a lot of languages. I met a lot of people from different parts of the country. And I think that is one of the biggest advantage of doing my engineering from an engineering college which is outside the state. So I could get the exposure right from a very young age. And hence, that compatibility part was very strong in me, which obviously helped me in building a great career. So core competencies, compatibility, and then the third one, which is equally important as the first two, is compliance. So in fact, if you see all these C's start with COMP. Now what is compliance? What's the meaning of the word compliance? Your ability to abide or obey the rules, the instructions given by your superiors, given by the organization. I always give this example of an incident which, I personally encountered in Chennai. When I once went there to OMR, which is a place where all the major companies, MNCs have their hub in India. And during the break time, a lot of people come out from these offices to have juice. So if you go to a juice corner or a restaurant in Chennai, in OMR, during lunchtime or a break time, you'll find different types of people there. And very easily, these shopkeepers can identify Malayalis out of this group. How? Malayalis are in fact the only group of people or employees who don't wear the tag when they come out of the office. All the other people wear their tags, but Malayalis, as soon as they get out of the office, the first thing they do is they remove the tag and keep it in the pocket. Whereas all the other people keep wearing it even if when they're out of the office till their work is over for the day. Now what issue is? The issue is known as compliance issue, which means most of us have a tendency to rebel. We don't like to take instructions. We always think that, obeying someone or maybe listening to somebody's words is kind of inferior, kind of egoistic, so not good for us. So we have our own ways, we create our own rules. This is evident in your way of dealing in your college as well. The teacher or the management or the principal asks you to do something like wearing a tag or bringing books to the college. You people are reluctant. You always resist, try to resist. What's the issue? The issue is compliance issue. So when you are not willing to obey the authorities, not willing to take instructions, not willing to get to train, not willing to be trained, then you call it a compliance issue. Unless you develop these 3 C's and make sure that you are very strong in these 3 C's, your career is going to be a mystery. Am I very clear? So we'll go part by part. Now, if you ask me how to develop core competencies, if you are a professional, the best way to develop core competency is, one, you have to develop very good subject knowledge. Whichever subject you are good at, you should have very good knowledge about it. I'm very sure that most of you might be good in your subject as far as textbook knowledge is concerned. But how many of you read latest journals regarding your subject or area of interest? I'm very sure most of you visit the library just to see books about your exams. But how many of you read journals which give you a lot of updated idea about your subject? So start reading journals. How many of you do internships seriously? So you have to do internships, especially in your core areas, in your areas of interest, in your subject knowledge. So that is internships. How many of you do industrial visits? I know that most of the engineering colleges today make IB as a picnic, which maybe give you fun for the time being, but in the long run, then in an interview or in your job, if you had done your IB properly, it would have helped you somewhere or the other because you're getting real hands-on experience to an industry visit. So keep these 3 things, in your mind. to develop your core competencies, because you may be very good in your theory, but unless you are very good in practical knowledge, unless you know the job, it's very difficult. That's why you might wonder, the people who pass out of polytechnic colleges are much more skilled in various ways compared to engineers of the same branch. This happens because polytechnic or diploma holders have much better practical knowledge, and sometimes they get much better salaries initially than engineering graduates. So it's a matter of core competency. Similarly, compatibility, adaptability. This comes only by moving out of your comfort zone. You have to stay away from your house. Next time it's a vacation in your college or hostel, don't try to run away to home. Instead, go to another place, not as a picnic, but a place where you can do an internship. So that means you are moving away from your comfort zone. And then compliance. Start obeying and listening to your teachers, your principal, your management, and try to abide by their instructions. The more you try to abide by the instructions, the better leader you are becoming. All right. So please remember these 3C. The core competency includes definitely communication skills also, which I'll discuss in a different venue. So any doubts in this 3Cs? We will move part by part. So once I finish this, I'll be moving on to the next topic, and then we'll not take up this. So please ask if you have any concerns regarding the 3Cs. Am I very clear about this? So let's move on to the next essential ingredients to build a corporate career. Okay. Before that, let me also make the situation light by telling you a funny story which usually does the rounds in corporate world about how important your boss is. So the boss is always the boss, right? So whatever the boss says, you have to accept. So you don't question your boss. In fact, you obey your boss, and then after the job is done, maybe you can ask the boss, why did you ask me to do it? So in army, they say, in military, they say, first obey. Like for example, if the major asks you to jump from a hill, you have to first jump and then ask why, not ask why and then jump. So I'll give you a short story which usually we say in corporate regarding how important your boss is. So the boss is the first one. Okay, once it so happened that a boss, his manager, and an executive. So these three people went on a picnic together on the way to attend a meeting. Okay, so the boss is the head, he is assisted by the manager, and the manager is assisted by the executive. Okay, so these three people on their way, they get a magic lamp, and when they rub the magic lamp, a genie comes out of it, and the genie says that I'll grant all your wishes. So each one of you can ask for one wish. So the executive, due to his ego, said that I want to ask the first wish. So the manager and the boss agreed. Okay, fine, go ahead, ask. So the executive, as usual, he is a young guy. So he said, my wish is I have to lie in a tropical beach, enjoying the weather with a lot of fun and dance and party and all that. So immediately take me there. So genie said, granted. He vanishes. So he goes to the beach. Next time, manager. The manager is a very passionate aficionado of sports and games. So he said, I want to watch the Real Madrid match today, which I'm not able to because I have an office meeting. So I wish I were there today to watch the match. So he also vanishes and he directly reaches the stadium. Now the boss turn comes. He says, Ginny, I have just one wish. I have a lot of work to do today. So please bring them both back here. So the two came back. So this is how the boss works. So the boss is the first person. So let the boss decide. Had the first choice been given to the boss, then the others two would have escaped, right? So the boss is the head. So always remember, give the boss the first priority if you have to build a career. All right. So having said that, let me get to the crux of the issue. There are 3 E's. So we learned 3 C's. Now there are 3 E's for a successful career, which is actually different from the 3 C's. Okay. The first one is your expertise and experience. I'll explain this with the help of a doctor. Okay, a doctor may have passed his MBBS and post-graduation with highest marks. That means he is an expert in a subject. but without experience, his expertise is nothing. So these are sides of the same coin. So along with your expertise, you have to gain experience. So you might naturally ask me, sir, I'm a fresher, I'm an entry-level professional. How will I gain experience? As I said, I repeat, your experience as a fresher comes through internships and industry visits. So try to get as many internships, hands-on experience in a job, right? And then the next E, which is not easy to get, which is known as exposure. Now, most of the companies prefer people with exposure. That's why in your interviews, you might get questions related to which all places have you visited? How many places have you seen? How many languages you know? See, in my 12th standard, I still remember I went to the railway station because there was no computerized reservation or a smartphone at that time. So I had to go to the railway station, find out which train goes to my engineering college, which was in Madhya Pradesh. I had to book my tickets on my own. This is known as exposure. The way you can do things on your own, the way you are experienced with things happening around you apart from your academics. Like how many of you know how to book a ticket through IRCTC? How many of you have booked your own tickets for a flight? How many of you can travel maybe anywhere to take an admission? For example, if you get an admission for MTech, the first thing you do is you take your parents along with you, correct? That means you are still dependent on them. So exposure depends on your ability to do things on your own. How much have you seen the world? How many things can you do by yourself, by minimum help from others? All this come under exposure. So try to develop your exposure. And travel is one good way to develop your exposure because companies prefer people who are independent, who can do things by their own without depending much on even the company or the staff of the company. If you can book your own tickets, if you can make arrangements for your own travel or stay, then the company is all the more happier with you. All right. So that is exposure. And the third E, which is again most important in a company, is your efficiency and efficacy. Many people confuse these two. See, in modern world, what matters is efficiency as well as efficacy. The dictionary meaning is not same. What do you mean by efficiency and how is it different from efficacy? Maybe your car is very efficient. That means it gives you a good mileage. It is very good. It has got the required power. It's very comfortable to drive. So that is efficiency. It's not efficacy. Whereas suppose you have a bus which you use for commercial purpose. The bus also has almost similar features like the car you have. It's good. It has got a lot of power, fine driving comfort, everything. But the efficacy is the ability of that bus to produce money for you. Why? Because you are depending on the bus as a business model, right? So what is efficiency? Efficiency is nothing but how it operates, how it works, how the machine works. Whereas efficacy is the returns it gives. Example, I am a good trainer, I know. That means I'm efficient. I can take a lot of subjects, a lot of topics by myself. I'm an efficient trainer. But imagine, despite being an efficient trainer, I don't produce any results. I don't get any IIM calls for my students. I don't get admissions for my students in good universities and colleges. That means, though I'm efficient, my efficacy is not good. How effective I am, that is efficacy. Whereas, how well I can perform is efficiency. See, you might have experienced this. You would have got very good marks in your 10th and 12th. You are efficient. But how well you have used that knowledge to produce result. For example, did you get 95% in your 10th and 12th? But you could not secure a good rank in engineering. What suffered is your efficacy. You are efficient. Is that logic very clear about the difference between efficiency and efficacy? This, the companies will check in the interview. Efficacy, your marks may be very good. But efficacy, the company starts giving you targets. Okay, you need to complete these many projects in this many days. If you're not able to do this, then your efficacy is put to test. Your efficacy suffers. So most of the companies would decide your promotions, your performance appraisals, your incentives, your promotion, everything is dependent on your efficacy. That means how well you can produce the results. So remember these three E's. What are these three E's? Your expertise and experience, your exposure, and your efficiency and efficacy. So you have to find your own ways to improve this. Is it very clear? The three C's and three ease. Now comes the three O's. First O is known as organizational skills. So I'm just giving you an overview of almost all the skills required to be very successful in corporate world. Okay, or even if you start your own enterprise, these are the three O's you need. One is your organizational skills. What do you mean by organizational skills? Maybe in your college or school, you might have organized an event, or you might have played a very important role in organizing certain things like a picnic or an annual science exhibition or whatever thing, or a tech fest. That shows your organizational skills. So basically it is your ability to manage people. So it is people's skills. It is also your leadership skills, and of course your discipline. So if you see most of the great leaders of the world, I'm talking about political leaders especially, all of them have very good organizational skills, without which they would not have become leaders. So your ability to keep people together with you, to lead them, to give them directions, and to do things properly, you call it organizational skills. Now these organizational skills, especially for an engineering graduate, depends on three things, which are: one is your planning, how well you can plan. So you have to work backwards, keeping the end in mind, and then you start from the beginning. So that is planning, your overall design of the event. So even if it's a machine, this is what happens. Engineers do this. They plan, they design, and then it is execution. So these are the three things required in becoming a good leader, your organizational skills. So that is the first O. Is it clear? Now the second O is orientation. What do you mean by orientation? In other words, in corporate world we call it orientation, but in layman's language we call it your objectives, your aim. Where are you heading to? Example, tomorrow you get placed in an IT company. The first thing you should ask yourself is, what is my orientation? Am I going to be with this IT company for the rest of my life? If I'm going to be with this IT sector for the rest of my life, where is my position going to be after 10 years? So it's your career objective. After 20 years, where am I? Should I take an MBA or MTech or MS? Or if you are already in an organization, what is your aim? What is your orientation? Where are you directing yourself to? Where are you directing others to? Where are you directing your organization to? So people with the right orientation become heads of organization. People without the right orientation, they'll just move up in their career, but without any particular objective. So have the right orientation in your career. And then the third thing, the third O is your operational skills. Now what do you mean by operational skills? I'll give you one example. When I was working in a company, there was a lot of issues with trade unions. You know, trade unions always create trouble with respect to their wages, their work schedules, their rest, their PF. So all those issues I had to deal with. And one day it happened that we had very few days remaining to meet our targets, and two unions started a strike in the company. It was a very crucial juncture because unless the targets are met, the whole company would go for a loss. So it was on my shoulders to sort out the strike. Now, since I had a very good rapport with most of the union leaders, I had a discussion, long discussion with them, and on my personal assurance, they were ready to come back to work, at least till the targets were met. Now, this is an operational skill. So what I mean to say is, when you are good in operations, you know how to deal with each and every issue that happens in your organization, in your company. In other words, your operational skills, one of the most important thing you need is your crisis management. How you deal with crisis. Because when you become part of an organization, you will face a lot of crises on a day-to-day basis, or maybe a monthly basis. How you address those crises, with whose help you can address it, how do you come out of the crisis, how do you find viable solutions to it, all this come under your operational skills. That is why if you see management, MBA, Operations management is one of the most sought after by engineers. Why? Because to manage an organization, to run a company with minimum glitches, you need to be very good in operations part. Alright? Now if you look at this, 3O. Now all these letters which we dealt with today, see, the first letter was C, the second letter was E, and the third letter is O. So if all the three letters are in place, you become a CEO. This is how CEOs are made. So just your qualification won't help to become a CEO of a company. All the C, E, and O should be in place. So I gave you a mnemonic. What's a mnemonic? To remember, example, the first mnemonic you might have learned in your life is Vigio, right? That is obviously important in a one-to-one communication and your presentation style. Even if you're just with one person or with a team, you have to have good presentation skills. Now this part, verbal communication, I cannot help you now. It has to be built over a period of time. Maybe one method which you can do is to improve your English communication is to do a mirror talk. See, I'm just touching upon every subject, but all these things are or have to be done in a lot of detail. Mirror talk is not that easy. You have to stand in front of a mirror, try speaking sentences to yourself, ask questions, answer to yourself, see how your pronunciation is, how your body language is, how your presentation is. So practice mirror talk to improve your verbal as well as non-verbal communication skills, because in this world, the most important thing which you need to build a career is not your technical knowledge. Maybe technical knowledge will help you in the first 5 years of your career. After that, what matters is your presentability, your communication skills, your manners, your the way you carry forward yourself. So all this is your communication skills. And then you have B, your oral and written. Remember, these two are two different things. What do you mean by oral communication? Maybe you are very good in a meeting. You can speak and convince people. You have excellent language skills. But when you are asked to draft these things in a message, maybe to draft an email or to make a PowerPoint presentation, to write a project report, you find yourself in no man's land. You cannot write a sentence properly. That is something which is not common. So written skills you have to develop. You have to practice writing. You cannot improve your writing skills without writing. So start writing something. You can read a newspaper, close it, and then write in your own language, your own words, what you have read. So that is one method to improve your written skills. That is why some of the toughest exams of the world, like civil service, have a written part. Because written skill is not something which is very common and not easy to cultivate. It's very, very difficult to draft a good email or make a good, PPT or PowerPoint presentation or even a project report. When you start working in companies, you'll have to deal with a lot of documents in which writing is an integral part. All right. So take care of your oral and written language. And then the third thing. So first is your health. Second is your communication skills. And third, which is equally important, is your time management. Now, this is something most of us don't know how to. And the biggest excuse which most of us give to ourselves and to people around us is, sorry, I don't have time. Sorry, I didn't get time. Sorry, I can't find time. I would say that that is the biggest lie one can say to oneself. If you figure out properly the time wasters of your life, you will find that you will have enough and more time for whatever you want to do in life. See, I'm a person with busy schedule. I mean, just before COVID, now I have a lot of free time. But even in my busy schedule, I used to find time for my personal things like, my health, my club, my friends, my badminton. So if you have a proper schedule and avoid time wasters, then definitely you can do a good time management, and then you will have enough and more time. So I'm going to give you a very, very important figure which you may take down if you are interested in time management. This you will not find elsewhere. It's a rare thing which we corporate managers know. It's a secret. Maybe you'll find YouTube videos about this. This is known as the 4 quadrant of time management. Okay. So this is quadrant 1, quadrant 2, quadrant 3, quadrant 4. See, all these, or all of us, do things in all these quadrants, and at some point of life, we were in this quadrant or this, or this, or this. So it's not a sin that you are in one quadrant and you cannot move on to the other quadrant, but you should know what these quadrants are to have a better time management and control about your life. Okay? Quadrant 1 is not urgent, not important. So I'm going to classify the things which we do on a daily basis into 4 quadrants. Not urgent, not important. Could you give me a few things that you do as part of your daily life, daily activities, which you think are not urgent, not important? First example, social media. WhatsApp. Movies. So all these are examples of not urgent, not important. Browsing, which is not useful for you. So basically Q1, or people who spend a lot of time in Q1 or activities related to Q1 are wasting their time. So they are time wasters. That means your priorities are not set right. I know most of the youngsters would spend at least 2-3 hours on a daily basis on Facebook, WhatsApp, sending messages, unwanted messages, forwarding messages which are not relevant for you, and wasting a lot of time in such activities. They are operating in Q1. That means these activities are known as time wasters. The more you spend time here, you're wasting your life, because this is not a productive quadrant. So this is the most unproductive quadrant, because people who do activities on first quadrant are not useful for themselves or for anyone else around them. So these people are an utter waste of space. Okay. Now comes Q2. Urgent, but not important. Can you give me examples? Urgent, but not important. For example, your class plans for a picnic, but the principal has said that you have to go to the picnic this week itself, because next week your internal exam starts. And you have to come your picnic with IB. And I know that most of your IB turns into picnic. So this is urgent. Why? Because you have, when I say urgent, it means there is little time left. So urgent, but not so important. Even if you skip this picnic, nothing is going to happen to you. Or maybe a very important function, like a marriage, which you forgot. Suddenly you remember that, oh, I have to go there. But even if you don't go there, nothing would happen, because maybe you have been invited to it, but your presence is not mandatory. So that is known as Q2. The urgent, not important, are people who actually can't set their priorities right. Some of us operate in this quadrant. Now comes Q3. Now this is a very interesting quadrant. Urgent and important. So you feel that this is the best quadrant. Unfortunately, 80 to 90% of people, especially youngsters of your age, are in this quadrant. Even if you are very studious, academically brilliant, career oriented, still most of you people unfortunately are in this quadrant. How? I'll give you examples. Most of us have done this, right? Late fees for exam. You know that the exam fee date is today. You forget it. So tomorrow with late fee, you can file it. Late fees. Last minute preparation for exam. Maybe your study leave or the exam timetable had come 1 month back. So you had made a timetable then. And then gradually you start procrastination. So this quadrant is a result of procrastination. What do you mean by procrastination? You keep on postponing things indefinitely till the last minute, and then you have no escape but to do things in a very clumsy way because there are a lot of things piling up. So when this happens, you have a lot of load on you. The load is immense that you do the work very unprofessional. So this is one major reason why you have arrears or supply papers in your exams. So it is urgent and important. And those people who operate here are known for procrastination. So this is also not the right quadrant for you. So all these three quadrants, Q1, Q2, Q3, are all negative quadrants. Maybe here you are able to do things productively, but still it is not good for you, because if you operate from this quadrant for most of the time, you gradually start building stress. These are the people who are affected by stress. Why? Because they keep postponing things till the last minute, and at the end of the day, you have a lot of things to be done on the deadline, which makes you eligible for this bad condition, which is stress. If you see, like major business leaders like Tata, all these people try to operate from Q4. What is Q4? Now you might be able to do Q4 by yourself. What is it? Not urgent, but important. One best example is your health. Nobody is asking you to go to a gym today, maybe because you are young. So it is not urgent. But if you go, if you take care of your health on a daily basis, it will give you returns in the long run. So any investment which you do today, let it be a financial investment, health, career, knowledge, which is not urgent, but which is important in the long run. This is the mark of successful people, Q4, because this will give you results in the long run, in future, for what you do today. And you can do it today at your own time, leisure, because it is not urgent. So there is no pressure or stress on you to do it. Am I clear? So some of the most important things which you can do here is 1, your health. 2, any skill building. When I say skill building, it could be skills like driving, or life-saving skills like swimming, or maybe you take your passport. Nobody is asking you for a passport now, but suppose you get an overseas offer and then suddenly you go to the passport office, maybe you'll have to face a lot of trouble. That means you have automatically come to urgent and important. Whereas you keep your passport ready by now, it's not urgent, but it's very important. Am I clear? So any such skill which you develop, but it's not urgent, but you know that it will be of some future use. You know, big people, big business people, big leaders, one important thing which they do in Q4 is, which you will find it useful in your later period of life, is relationship building. How do they build relationships? Let's say they're traveling on a flight. Most of us would feel reluctant to speak to the person sitting next to us. But if you see top people, top managers, big CEOs or big business owners, they usually don't keep confined themselves. They talk to the people sitting beside them, ask them what they do, try to strike a conversation, they exchange their visiting cards, and probably they'll find some mutual benefit in that relationship, which would help them in the long run. I have met a lot of advocates, top advocates on my flight, a lot of good doctors, a lot of people who have actually helped me, and I have been able to render my services to them as well. Okay, so this is quadrant 4. So the more you operate on quadrant 4, the better it is for you to build a successful career over a period of time. Another thing which you can do in this is proper financial management. What do you mean by financial management? How many of you keep a track of your accounts? How many of you know how much money you have spent in the last 1 week on various heads? How many of you have a monthly plan for or a budget to spend? You may be earning or you may be spending out of your pocket money. Very few people have, some accounts themselves. That means your financial discipline is bad. You have, no financial management. So that is one thing which is good for quadrant 4. Not urgent but important, because unless you learn financial discipline now, it's very difficult to cultivate it when you start working in an organization. The funny thing is, most of the IT professionals working in Technopark, whom I know personally, they still don't have any idea how much is their exact salary, how much is going to PF, how much is their incentive. They say maybe 1,000, 1,500, I don't know, I don't keep an exact amount. It's such a pity. If you can't handle your own salary, tomorrow how do you think you will become CEO of an organization where you have to manage billions of dollars? Not possible. So have a good command over financial management. Have an account for each and every penny you spend, you get, and you plan to spend. Okay? So these are the things which I want to highlight for the day. I'll leave it to you for the next 10 minutes. What are the aspects you want me to discuss in specific? We'll go on to that. So please remember, the most important thing for the day is time management. The quadrants, which I explained in detail, and the 3 CEOs. Okay? So you have what are the C, what are the E's, what are the O's, and then you have all the time management, out of which I said the first one is health, the second one is communication skills, and the third one is time management. Okay? So, build your skills around all these things which I said, and have covered holistically almost all the elements required for a successful corporate career. Maybe if you work for an organization, or maybe you want to start something on your own, like a startup or an enterprise. Okay?
Question.
Yes. Now it's time for you to ask me questions. You can ask me anything related to your career guidance, exams, or type of companies. Yes.
One question. Majority of today's students are under the deadlines of procrastination. How can they get out of that? So tips.
Very good. May I know the question? First name?
Atulya.
Atulya, may I know what was the last word? Now, what do you mean by procrastination? That is something which we all do, even I do. So it's, part of a life. You don't have to worry about procrastination, but severe procrastination could cost you dear and could affect your career. I have a lot of victims of procrastination sitting in front of me. So what is procrastination? I'll just give you one sentence which can kill the procrastination in you, which I always practice consciously, which I do very meticulously and religiously, because I once upon a time was notorious for procrastination, but gradually I think I have won it over. One, just remember this sentence, okay? If you can do something today, do it today. And if now itself. Just make this your theme of life. If you can do something today, which maybe you can do tomorrow or maybe day after tomorrow, but if you can do it today itself. And if that thing which you can do today, if you can do now itself. This one sentence can help you, defeat your procrastination. Now, why procrastination happens? Let's get into the scientific reasons for procrastination. One is your laziness, which may be due to your lack of energy or maybe your health. Example, you sit to study, you don't feel like studying. Maybe you're lazy because you want to sleep, you don't get enough sleep, you can't concentrate, there is something wrong with your brain, maybe health issues, you need to address it clinically, right? Second is your lack of interest. This is one major psychological factor. Lack of interest. What do you mean by lack of interest? There is no enthusiasm. There is no interesting thing about it. Example, I ask you to wake up tomorrow at 5 and study. You will not. You can answer this, and that's procrastination. So the reasons are laziness, lack of interest, and what is in it for me. What is in it for me means why should I do it? Example, today this webinar is there. I could have procrastinated it if I'm not well. But, this is what I think. And I know that these things should not come in my way. Now, how to get over procrastination? We have discussed the reasons. Methods. 1. Delegate. This is a very good way of procrastination. When I say delegate, it does not mean that you will give all your work to somebody else because you're lazy. So I know in your colleges, maybe you ask your juniors to write your records. That is not delegation, okay? That is laziness and that is pure indiscipline from your part. When I say delegate, it means you have a big task in hand. So basically delegation is about teamwork. So let's say you have an exam or an internal test coming up and the topic is too big, the subject is too big. So maybe you can divide it into 5 chapters and ask 5 of you to learn each chapter and keep a time frame. How? Let's say in the next 2 hours, each one of you should finish this chapter and one will take class for the other 4 about what he or she learned in that chapter. In that way, you are becoming more responsible to yourself and others. So that is how you delegate. This is what happens in a teamwork in corporate. So use teamwork by sharing responsibilities. So when you share responsibilities by delegation, what happens is you become collectively responsible to yourself and others. So obviously your mind would think, what if the other 4 do their part and I don't? So here you have no scope of procrastination because you are tied with all the other 4 members of the team to perform. So you have no escape. This is what happens in big corporate companies when they do a teamwork. And that is where teamwork has been proved to be much more effective than one person doing it independently. So when you are in a team, you cannot procrastinate because everybody is tied to the same chain and each one's performance depends on the other's performance and you have to perform because else you will fall out of the chain and hence you will be eliminated. So the one method to avoid procrastination is to delegate work. 2. Which is part of time management, is multitasking. What do you mean by multitasking? I'll give an example. Let's say you don't want to miss your favorite show on TV or a cricket match, but at the same time tomorrow is the last day for submission of your record. You can do things together, right? How? If you watch a cricket match, I'll give you one interesting example. Let's take 1 over. You know 1 over has 6 deliveries. Now take each delivery if it's a fast bowler, okay? He takes approximately 10 seconds to run up, deliver, and then the batsman takes 5 seconds, which means one complete delivery till the next delivery takes at least 1 minute on TV. That means 1 over or 6 deliveries would take around 7 to 8 minutes. If you analyze the 7 to 8 minutes, actually you need to see only the 2 seconds for each delivery when the bowler comes and delivers and what the batsman does. The rest of the thing you don't need to see. Why? It's the same thing. The batsman getting the ball from the fielder, walking to his runner, and then coming back. All this, why should you watch? So when you are not taking your eyes off the screen throughout a day's cricket match, you're actually wasting 90% of the time, because the substance happens only in 10%. That's why you see highlights. It doesn't make any difference to you. So if you want to watch it live, keep your books ready with you. Just watch that 2 seconds when that delivery is delivered and the batsman hits it. The other part is useless. So actually you can watch an over which lasts for 7 to 8 minutes in 20 seconds. This is known as multitasking. Your mother is an expert in multitasking. How? She puts something on the gas stove, and the time it takes to cook, she does something else like cleaning or washing dishes. This is also a way to cut your load by multitasking. And the third thing you need to get over is your sheer willpower, which I said, the quote is, if I can do something now, I'll do it now itself. And procrastination is one of the biggest curses of mankind, which, if you practice over a period of time, you can get over it. All right, next question.
Thank you, sir. Next question. In our present society, it is very challenging to build ourselves and to be unique personality. On that sense, this soft skill help us to flourish.
I didn't get the last part. So what's your doubt?
Sir, may I repeat the question?
I got half of the question. Like, it's very difficult to make your own personality to be unique because it's a very competitive world.
Does soft skill help us to flourish?
Does soft skill help us to flourish? So first of all, you have to understand the meaning of the word soft skill. I'll tell you the basic difference between dealings with soft skills and without soft skills. I have a lot of soft skills. Whereas the same situation, if my wife deals, I would say it is more of hard skills. Why? But I really say no to people. If I can help somebody, if I have the resources to give to someone, I would try to help them out. So what do you mean by soft skill? Basically, you are a very soft person. You're soft spoken. You are very good in dealing with people. You know diplomacy. You don't try to make anyone your enemy. You try to resolve conflicts. All these are part of soft skills. So what's the advantage of being a soft person? With all respect to all the prime ministers we had, if you see the difference between two prime ministers from the same party, Atal Bihari Vajpayee and Prime Minister Modi, those who knew Atal Bihari Vajpayee well, I would say that he is very soft, whereas Modi is hard. That's the difference. See, it doesn't make a difference to their operations, their efficiency. Atal Bihari Vajpayee was very soft-spoken, statesman. Everybody liked to be with him. He's very diplomatic. Whereas if you see Modi, he's very aggressive. He knows what he wants and tries to get what he wants, and is a very tough administrator. But he has some soft skills to his dealings with people or leaders. So soft skills is that part of your personality which help you get over crisis, which help you resolve conflicts among yourselves, or how to resolve conflicts as being a third party in the conflict. All right. Now, to cultivate good soft skills, the first thing you need is your humility. I'm just giving you tips. How humble you are. Best example is Sachin Tendulkar. He is one of the world-class record holders in cricket. But if you talk to him, you'll never feel that you're talking to such a great personality. Or Roger Federer, for that matter. Very humble. So the number one thing you need in soft skills is humility. Two, your communication skills, as I explained, your ability to convey things in a very polite, sophisticated, and very assertive way. Now, what do you mean by assertive way? Instead of directly saying a no, I can give a reason first why I'm not able to do it, and then say I'm sorry. That is how assertive communication works. And then third is your manners, which includes your grooming. How well dressed you are, how good shaped you are, your body structure, your face, how clean you are, how elegant you are, how presentable you are. All this form part of your soft skills. Now, why soft skills are important? See, in today's world, it's a collective teamwork. Why are you watching my show today? Because my soft skill part is not that bad. Had I been sharply dressed, had I got a mustache like freak, had I got so much beard and my hair fogged up, of course I can say that I'm a trendsetter. I want to create my unique ways, but I know 80% of you might not accept it. Why? Because there's a set norm for a corporate job. Tomorrow I go for an IAS, IPS interview with a long beard and freak and t-shirt and shorts. I'll not be selected though I scored 100% in my written exam. Why? Because there is an expected way of behavior and mannerism. That's not a soft skill. Now, I'm not saying that just by having a lot of good soft skills with you, you can conquer the world or you'll become highly successful in your career. But soft skills is that indispensable part of your life. It is like cream to your bread. You can satisfy your hunger with bread. But if you add some cream to it, it tastes better. That's what soft skill can do to you. And soft skill cannot be cultivated overnight. It has to come with a lot of exposure, experience, meeting different people, listening to a lot of videos and audios by eminent talkers, speakers, orators, improving your communication skills. See, please don't confuse soft skills with English language. People think that the ability to speak English well is all that makes soft skill. That is one big misunderstanding. Any language, if you can communicate very clearly, if you can behave very politely, very humble, down to earth, at the same time, strong and very assertive. That means you will say no. But you have a way of saying no very diplomatically. You create a win-win situation. You have good negotiation skills. You can, help people. You really open up to people and try to, build them up. All these are part of your soft skills. Okay?
Next question. What is
Thank
the
you.
most skill that the student should develop?
What is the most?
It is the most needed skill that a student should develop during this lockdown time.
Okay, that's a good question. At the same time, let me answer that question with an analogy. If I ask you, what is the biggest skill for a football player? Would you be able to answer this question? I repeat, the biggest skill for a football player. Now, even if you ask Cristiano Ronaldo, Messi, Neymar, whoever your dream player is, do you think you will get the same answer? And probably they might not even have one single answer. If you ask Ronaldo, he might say that one biggest skill you need is your ability to jump high, because he still has a world record of jumping the highest from ground, which even doctors and scientists are not able to figure out how he could jump so high. Whereas if you ask Messi, he would say that, your ability to use both legs equally well. So there is no one skill which you can say you should develop for a successful career, especially during the COVID time. But since you are locked down in your house and you have a lot of spare time, I would list 3 things. One, obviously, as I said, is your health, which is your mental, emotional, physical, and spiritual health. What do you mean by mental health? When I say your mental health, your brain's health, how healthy your brain is. Emotional, how you deal with your anger, stress, or all negative emotions. Physical, of course, your body. And your spiritual, the way you meditate, the way you can, concentrate, or yoga, all those would come under spiritual, which is beyond the human realm for the time being. So I would say the priority should be to build health. Second is to build on your vocabulary, grammar, and reading. How many of you have subscribed to an English newspaper during the lockdown period and tried to read or cultivate reading habits? At least, how many of you tried to read online newspapers? I'm sure very few. The last 2 months, if you had used really well for cultivating good English language, you should have subscribed a newspaper like Indian Express or the Hindu. How many of you learned 20 new words from the dictionary? You could have learned 5 words a day. If you have done that, you could have seen a lot of grammar videos, learned some grammar. You could have learned speed reading, which would have helped you in your academics as well. Okay, I know what you would have done. You would have done stupid videos on TikTok or something which is not useful for yourself or anyone. The third thing which you can do is skill building. Any skill, technical skills, non-technical skills, or life skills. Technical skills, you could have joined some online certification program which you think you would have used it in your future career. Non-technical skills, like as I told you, something like swimming or breathing techniques or whatever. And life skills. What are life skills? Communication skills, all those come under life skills. So these are the things which you should focus on during the lockdown period without much financial investment.
Next question.
Yeah.
Sir, how can we implement power of compounding in a student's life?
Could you explain the word power of compounding, because it has a lot of interpretations? If you could explain power of compounding, I do not understand what you mean by that word, power of compounding in a student's life. If you mean multitasking or doing a lot of things at the same time, I think I already cleared your doubt. Try to do things from the 4 quadrants of time management. That's all I can say now. Next. Or maybe you can contact me personally with your doubt. I'll help you with that question.
The question is related to what extent soft skill development is possible.
To what extent soft skill development is possible depends on you. See, to what extent you can build a good body depends on what type of body you want, right? For example, if you want to become a bodybuilder, you'll have to develop one particular course of exercise. Whereas if you want to get an athletic body, you should change from anaerobic exercise to aerobic exercise. The third possibility is you want to become a power lifter, you completely go for a different shape of body. You want to become a boxer, it's a different type of exercise regime which you will accept. Similarly, soft skills have different portfolios, different types of soft skills. Example, if I want to become a soft skill trainer, my approach towards soft skill would entirely be different. Whereas if you are going to become a manager, the type of soft skills you need would be entirely different. So basically, soft skills can be compartmentalized into your requirements. What is your actual requirement? See, if you go to an IPS officer, you cannot expect soft skills from him. Why? His job is such. He cannot be. So whenever you see those officers dealing with public at large, their soft skill part is very weak. Why? The more they become soft, the more people would exploit it. So to what extent your soft skills need to be improved depends on your career. Example, if you are into research and development, or suppose you are a scientist where you don't meet people at all in your day-to-day work, what's the advantage of cultivating a lot of soft skills? You don't need it. See, soft skills is a huge field. Please understand, it even includes negotiation skills. Now, what can I teach you about negotiation skills unless you worked in a business organization? So, a lot of you, especially as youngsters, you have still confusion about the word soft skills. Soft skills is not just your behavior. Soft skills is not just your language. It's a big, huge collection of a lot of skills which is dependent on your profession. A doctor need not be highly sophisticated in his communication skills. You get my point? So basically what matters in your life, in your career, is your expertise, your core competencies. Soft skill would just add, it's like a dessert. It's like the icing on the chocolate. It will make your career or your expertise or your competencies look better, look presentable. So I'm not saying that you should spend so much time on improving your soft skills. That will come automatically through your profession, through exposure, by mingling with people. See, you are now in an engineering college, right? Your soft skill is pathetic, I know. But tomorrow when you start working in an IT organization for 1 year, and then I meet you, you'll be a different person because you would have changed even without your knowledge. This change or this evolution happens even without your knowledge. It happens through exposure. It's mostly an external change which would bring an internal change. So it's very difficult to cultivate soft skills artificially. It should come naturally. It should be consciously changed. Let's wind up this session. In case you have any doubts related to your career, your soft skills, your time management, your worries, your career guidance, your exams like GRE, GMAT, higher studies, universities, courses, please, or resume writing or placements, please feel free to contact me at 906-1991932, or you can send your resume or queries to Jayesh Academy Trivandrum at Gmail and the same Facebook page. So let's just wind up what we discussed. CEO. So to be a CEO, you need 3 C's, 3 E's, and 3 O's. Remember this. And we discussed time management.
So we all covered almost all relevant questions within time limit. Thank you so much, sir.
Academy.in. Facebook. Okay, thank you.
Last, we would like to express our sincere gratitude to Ajit sir for taking such an excellent webinar. Thank you all for your participation. We will be back with our next webinar on 26 June 2020, Friday, on the topic Sparking Inspiration, presented by Ajit sir. Follow up our webinar series and let's learn together. Thank you.